Before we begin, thank you very much to Red Dome 1121 for joining the Patreon campaign. Thank you very much for the contribution. Very, very appreciated. Keeps the channel going, keeps the daily content coming. Thank you everyone who does so. Appreciate it. Now, we need to talk about this, hopefully not make this one of my 30-minute diatribes, because I'm starting to notice something at retail level, as I've been doing a lot of like toy hunting lately, trying to track down some of the new releases. And frankly, there's been a lingering issue that I think no one talks about enough. So we are a few years into Hasbro's experiment with A-level toys. Now, on paper, this is actually a pretty good idea. And I think in the right context and for the right series, this is something that is absolutely viable. If you go into a toy section in the Marvel Legends, you are likely looking for a Spider-Man. You know, your casual fans especially are going to assume that they can always go to a store and find a Spider-Man. It's the most popular superhero, right? Or Iron Man if you're a fan of the movies. And likewise, if you're a Star Wars fan, you would hope that you could find a Darth Vader, you know, pretty much any time you went to a toy store. Well, that was the answer for A-list. That was what A-list was supposed to solve. The idea is simple. There is a wave of toys available to retailers all year round, and it is just two characters, the most popular characters of a franchise, available in different iterations every year, but it does mean you always have them on the shelf. So you've probably always seen a Spider-Man on the shelf the last few years. It's based on one of the movies. It's based on, you know, something that like looks similar to a very familiar Spider-Man, but is always a little bit different, always a different variation. But point is, Spider-Man's always been available when previously, yeah, Spider-Man toys sold very quickly and were very hard to get afterwards. So we've been doing this with Marvel. We've been doing it with Star Wars. I've seen Star Wars. I don't think I've noticed Star Wars have it as often. I think they flip around a little bit more than other franchises, you know? Whereas here, for Transformers, we have Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. Now, this has been going on for 3 years now. We know from leaks this is going to go on for a 4th year. And I'm not entirely sure this is actually working out anymore. So first off, let me show you, okay, just as a refresher, here is what our A-list series looked like. Okay, so your 2024, your inaugural A-list is Transformers 1 Optimus Prime. Now, it's a decent figure. I mean, I don't mind this figure terribly outside of, you know, like I'm maybe not such a fan of the brownish, like, you know, light gray, this very light tan they've gone with for him. But structurally, it's a decent figure. It's a good representation of the character. You know, there's nothing wrong with it inherently, right? It does linger in stores for a long time, and that is largely due to the fact that the movie tanked, you know, and there's no way Hasbro could have anticipated that. You know, you plan for these things to actually be popular and successful, so when something like this happens, yeah, you're kind of stuck. You're kind of stuck with your plans as is. But nevertheless, not a bad toy. Maybe nothing like nothing that like makes me like jump for joy or write home about it or tell you like, oh, you got to go pick this up. But, you know, it's a decent Optimus Prime to have available. And beside it, we had 86 Bumblebee. Now, this one, again, shelf warms forever. And this was actually kind of surprising. So this one, you would expect, it's G1 Bumblebee. And frankly, I do think I like this one better than the Netflix Bumblebee, the Volkswagen model. Yes, that one is accurate to the real world vehicle, but this one does not need the part forming. And I kind of like that it kept the penny racer design. You know, it actually feels more correct to Bumblebee, whether I'm like looking at the toy or the cartoon model. Overall, I think the only reason is because, one, a lot of collectors stuck to the previous releases of Bumblebee, but also there's no getting around it. It's too small. And I've argued this forever, in that it is we need some kind of size class that is a step below a deluxe, something that smaller characters like Minibots or Bumblebee or some things of that nature could go into without taking up a deluxe slot or making us pay through the teeth for something that's way too small. In other toy lines, you would see some kind of balance between this, you know? If they do a Fantastic Four wave in Marvel Legends, you're going to see the Thing be a lot bigger than the other figures. But the budget for that came from the fact that Sue Storm is also in there. So you have a very thin female figure to kind of compensate budgetary. So that's not what we get. We don't get that with Bumblebees. They just come out of the size and you are paying up for the name of the character. And that's always felt nasty to me, especially these. Like when we first got Cliffjumper, we had that issue, but he came with a giant accessory weapon that did a bunch of things. Now, this Bumblebee just kind of came with one little gun, and that's about it. It's about all you get. So I think the inaugural release had a good idea, but both of them had poor executions. Even though the toys were relatively well received, I don't think anyone had an issue with that Bumblebee if they got it on clearance. The next year we got Devastation Optimus Prime, and I remember everyone being excited for this one, that Devastation was getting a little bit of attention, but it does become clear that they chose Devastation as a way of basically getting another G1 Optimus Prime on the shelves at a smaller size class. The downside here is that this is not a well-received toy. It's okay for what it is. If it's just standing on a desk looking like a G1 cartoon Optimus Prime, then it's absolutely fine. It's not harming anyone. It's doing what it's supposed to do. But playing with it as an actual Transformer, you do feel how much cheaper it feels than previous deluxes. You do find this vehicle mode that is definitely not up to Optimus Prime's usual quality. It felt a lot more like the Classics Deluxe or even the Robot Masters Optimus Prime, if we want to go that far back. It felt like a more primitive iteration of making a G1 Optimus Prime toy. And it's not what you expect these days. You expect it to be like a much higher quality because it's the main character of the franchise. And this all came to mind because I'm starting to find this guy at clearance at Ross's all over the place. $12, and I think he's fine for $12, but for the original 28, not really. I was not happy with this figure. Now, the next figure, the Bumblebee that came with it, fell into the exact same trap with Transformers 1. Again, this toy would have been in development and on the way well before this toy actually was fully released. And they do need to get the Bumblebee from the movie out. He's one of the 4 main characters. So yeah, like they had to go forward with it, even if, Transformers 1 tanked. They still have to fill the roster. They still have to use the mold they came up with. So yeah, this one is also on clearance at Ross's now, so they had plenty left over after this year was done. It's an okay toy. It's an okay toy. I think it is an okay toy given the fact that we had the Warrior class or whatever. I can't even remember what we were calling it at the time, but we had the cheaper deluxe that came out for this Bumblebee, and frankly, there are aspects of that Bumblebee that I think work better than this Bumblebee. Like, there are actually parts of that toy I think I like playing with more than this one. This one's okay. This one is entirely okay. But then it comes to the fact of, if I'm going to have to see this toy on the shelves year round, and if this is what we're presenting to the casual collectors, I think it has to be better than okay. I think this has to be one of your best of the year, and I don't think Bumblebee was. If we look at this year's, we come across the exact same problems that we have been facing for a while now. So one is we went back to Transformers 1 because we had to get an Orion Pax on the shelf. This one I do not like. I think it's too small to actually convey the engineering that the character requires. I know it's before he got his full Optimus Prime upgrade. He should be smaller than the standard deluxe, and he is. They do compensate with the massive mining saw that desperately feels like it should have some kind of geared spinning gimmick and doesn't. it is just a giant, it's just a giant accessory. It's a giant accessory to compensate for the fact that the Optimus Prime is quite diminutive. But this one just didn't feel like a great toy to me. Like, even more so than the Devastation Prime. I think this one is the one I was, out of all the A-level, I think this is the one that disappointed me the most. Like, I grabbed it, messed with it one time, went, I don't like it enough to talk about for a review, put it in a bin, and kind of forgot about it. You know, it's one of those that's probably destined for the sales pile once I can actually, like, dig it up. Assuming I can even sell it. That is another aspect of this that I should have brought up sooner. You can't really resell any of these. There's no inherent collector value to something that was available for a solid year, so good luck with that. And then we have Devastation Bumblebee. And again, I like that they kept with the Devastation, and frankly, I do like this toy. Again, there's aspects to it that I like better than the 86 mold. So, in ways, yeah, like, I do like this toy, and I do think it is a good Bumblebee, but you are also dealing with the exact same problem. It is just way too expensive for how big it is. And with Optimus Prime, in the exact same wave, we saw compensation for size, which makes it even more confusing that we're not getting that here. Like, and I know, like, okay, he looks like Classics Bumblebee. You could throw in his little jet ski that turns into a jetpack. It's not accurate to the game, but hey, it would actually make it feel like a more robust and complete toy. It would make me feel like I'm not getting gypped on the price. You know, this one did come with extra accessories compared to the 86, but the accessories are hollow. They only look good in one direction. And you have that additional gun that, frankly, I never really find a good use for. You know, because I'd really just rather use his pistol. So yeah, like, that's pretty much A-level for the moment. And is there any mold in here that I tell you, like, you should absolutely go out and get? Is there any mold that I really feel like is, like, a standout of the year? Not really. Not really. Even molds that are, you know, mechanically good. You know, 86 Bumblebee is mechanically good. Devastation Bumblebee is mechanically good. But I can't recommend you go out and spend $28 for them because they're just too small for your money. Now, if you find them on clearance, find them at Ross, and these did end up at clearance and at Ross all the time, yeah, you're doing fine there. But it's something at retail that you're expecting casual collectors to be interested in, you cannot price them out like this. You cannot charge them such extraneous prices. And I think the telling thing about this entire run of figures and just how kind of lackluster they are is the overwhelming lack of reuse of the molds. Out of 6 different figures that they have done for this, keep in mind, yes, there are specific versions of these characters, but that has not stopped Hasbro or Takara from releasing whatever Nemesis, Shatterglass, or whatever repaint they want. Only 2 of these molds have been reused. You've got the 86 Cliffjumper, which is currently available. In fact, as I record this, I just found and bought this today. And then you have the Spotlight Optimus Prime pack. I thought this was a good idea. I do think the execution is off because the unpainted prototype looks way too similar to just a normal Optimus Prime figure. This would have been far more interesting if it was the multicolor type of prototype, like the one where every different piece of the mold was done in a different bright color that's easy to spot. That would have been way more interesting than just Optimus with only chest paint. It's a well-meaning idea. And I do like the idea of essentially giving you prototypes, you know, by design. And the comeback of, like, well, since we only had to spend paint budget on one of the 3 figures, that gets all of the paint budget in the world. But it's not a great mold to do it with. It really isn't. This could have been way more interesting if it was like the Legacy United toy Optimus Prime. You know, like, there are better ideas or better molds they could have done this with. As we speak here, A-level is due to continue next year, and we know the leak listings. So the leak listings so far are Dreamwave Optimus Prime, and I genuinely do not know how they're going to actually convey this in the form of a like deluxe release, because the only real thing you can do, I think, to make him Dreamwave is to give him this puffy, like rounded look that Pat Lee drew to Optimus Prime all the time. Otherwise, he literally is just a G1 Optimus Prime. And then the other one would be is Last Night Bumblebee. This one is probably the first one that has a good shot of just being a regular seller, not only because, it's a movie Bumblebee that we haven't gotten before, but just it's a recognizable design. This will come down to just how well it is engineered, because it's doing a little bit of everything. So it's kind of in the vein, because like, if you remember like movie 4, the one that just got a toy, The Age of Extinction, they radically changed Bumblebee's overall look to kind of freshen him up, but it made it so it was impossible to transform him the way he always used to. They reverted to a more, like first 3 movie style design, but they still kept some of that extra detail and broken up look in the chest. I'm not sure how you're going to engineer this unless you do the same like big shell thing that the current Bumblebee does, but it's going to be deluxe size. It's going to be movie Bumblebee. I don't think this one's going to have any issue. I think this one will actually perform better. And if the Dreamwave Optimus Prime just looks like a really good G1 Optimus Prime, then it has a chance of performing well too. But you don't have a good track record so far. I think one of the reasons why A level just does not feel right at the moment is because there's a few reasons. Number one, they kind of doubled up on the exact same idea. So Target especially, and I see him at Walmart. It was originally just Target, and I'm seeing it at Walmart too. We are seeing this run of Prime Changer figures. Basically the cheaper deluxes that we've gotten ever since Cyberverse, and the current ones are Cyberverse repaints for that matter. And they're basically just filling in the spot that the deluxes for Earthspark would have filled in if that line hadn't been canceled. And I thought that's originally what it was, but they have continued it. We got brand new molds for Megatron and a brand new one for Mirage. So we're trying to get the exact same idea across of Transformers are constantly available, but the first waves were all Bumblebee and Optimus Prime. So you had 2 different series coming out at the exact same time with the exact same goal of just putting Optimus and Bumblebee on the store shelves. And that felt like it ate into each other a lot. We've gotten to this point where, because A-level has made these characters so available that they don't feel special anymore. Like finding an Optimus Prime on the shelf is not special. Finding a Bumblebee especially is not special. Optimus will at least come out in other size classes, Voyagers, Leader, Commander. Bumblebee is almost always a deluxe because that's how big the character is, and they don't want it to be unaffordable to kids. That does mean that all of the Bumblebees just kind of feel same-ish after a while. And again, I don't feel any like thrill seeing a Bumblebee on the shelf, even if it's a brand new mold, even if it's one that I need in my collection. It's just kind of there, because I'm so used to seeing it now. I'm like, it's not special to see him anymore. So the excitement just can't exist now. And the other issue with A-list right now is it's just taking up more space at retail that is already choking for space. I'm getting hard pressed to find stores that are carrying every size class consistently. My Walmarts will regularly drop the larger Transformer size classes, or even drop generations for a while. Maybe they'll still get Studio Series because they like the movie toys, but it's getting to the point where they're filling in the need retailers have for having just like deluxe class Transformers on the shelf. But because it's all the same stuff, they're not moving, which means a lot of retailers are getting to the point where they're just stagnating on the rest of the deluxe lines. They're not ordering as much as they used to because they have, not only the Prime Changers to order, but also the A-level to order. And they're going to order the A-level because they like having Optimus and Bumblebee available in their stores. Because, yes, apparently these do sell well enough to continue. They haven't gotten canceled yet. But I don't think they're accomplishing I think that while they're accomplishing a certain goal, I don't think they're doing it in the right way, and I don't think it is helping the franchise as a whole. I think it's making it harder to find the stuff that us collectors really want to see at retail, being the new waves of deluxes. I've been to every store around here. I cannot find the new tailgate. That is not an invitation for anyone to help me find it. I will get one eventually. But the point is, it's largely because there's so much product on the shelf already that a lot of these shops and stores do not feel the need to order more toys of this size when they already have so many piled up. Completely ignorant to the idea that the ones piled up are separate. You get it. You get it. It's taking up space and it's hindering the rest of the toy lines at this point, and I'm not happy about that. And largely, as I said, most of the A-level stuff just does not seem to hit very hard. I can't really think of one that even if it's good, the price is bad, So I don't know. I don't know where the happy medium is here. I don't know where we get to the point where the Marvel Legends balance actually works out. Nevertheless, I don't know. I think the experiment is trying. I want the experiment to run its course. I kind of want the characters to feel special again, and I don't want them eating into the Transformers that I'm actually trying to find anymore. It feels at this point more detrimental than helpful. But then again, they're made for casuals. I'm not casual, so maybe I'm completely missing the mark here. This is where discussions come in handy. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the A-level Transformers, if they are worth a spot or if they are doing more harm than they are good. I will leave that up to you. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.